how long do you really have to file for a car accident case before the deadline runs out?
In Texas, you typically have 2 years until what's known as the statute of limitations runs. And once the statute of limitations is run, your claims are typically barred forever. So you certainly want to file before then. However, there are some important exceptions that you should be aware of. First, if you were involved in a crash involving a driver of a governmental agency, such as the city or the county, there are requirements to get notice much sooner, sometimes as short as 30 days. So it's very important that you talk to a personal injury attorney as soon as possible, especially in those types of instances. Also, a different type of exception is for minors. If somebody is below the age of 18 when they are injured in a crash, they may potentially have longer than 2 years to pursue their claims. But again, that's very fact specific, and you should talk to a lawyer as soon as possible.
So kind of going to that hidden side, we know we have a deadline to file it by. How can social media hurt or help our case?
So social media can be a goldmine for your case, or it can seriously damage it. Some instances of it being good for your case would perhaps be it showing something negative about the other driver, about what they were doing earlier before the accident, such as maybe drinking alcohol at a restaurant before they were involved in the accident with you. Conversely, if you post a bunch of things on social media that would appear to show you as not having been impacted by the crash, the insurance company will definitely try and use that against you to show that, well, you weren't really hurt and your claim isn't worth that much money.
What if there are no witnesses to the car crash? How do I prove what happened?
If there are no witnesses except for the drivers involved in the crash, that does not prevent you from making a claim. You don't need a third-party witness to prove what happened. Ultimately, a jury or a judge will decide whether they believe the other driver's version of events or your version of events. While it's helpful to have a third-party witness, it's not necessary. Further, in this day and age, there are lots of other sources of potential evidence, including cameras attached to the vehicles involved, cameras on buildings nearby, and even sometimes experts can be retained to actually reconstruct the accident and show from physical evidence what actually happened. So the absence of a third-party witness will not prevent you from pursuing your claim.
So kind of talking about like there's cameras, things like that. Do photos of vehicle damage matter as much as medical evidence?
Whether images of vehicle damage or medical evidence have a greater significance is very case specific, and also can come down to very much who the individual jurors are in a case. However, evidence of property damage to the vehicles is important. It's something you should certainly capture, because sometimes that alone will have a significant impact on individuals and how they view the case.
So what is the biggest mistake people make when talking to insurance adjusters after a car crash?
So the biggest mistake that a lot of people make when they first are involved in a crash is they talk to an insurance adjuster and they agree to give a recorded statement. You should not do this without at least speaking with an attorney first. In particular, that's because right after a crash, the insurance company may reach out to you within hours. At that point, you still have adrenaline running through your system from this very significant event you've just been involved in. And you may not necessarily feel that bad at the time. And they will ask you if you have any injuries, and people tend to say no. Unfortunately, what happens is they wake up a day or two later and they realize they are injured and need medical care. And while that's completely legitimate, the insurance company will use that first statement from the date of the crash to say, oh, well, you previously said you weren't hurt in this crash.
Yeah, so kind of going into that insurance a little bit further, should you ever accept that first settlement the insurance offers you?
I would never recommend accepting the first offer from an insurance company, at least not without speaking to an experienced personal injury attorney. insurance companies are very good at resolving claims for very low amounts of money that are good for their bottom line. Their goal is to close their file for the least amount of payment to you. So the odds of you getting a good offer the first time you speak or receive an offer from the insurance company is extremely, extremely low. And I would recommend that you speak with an attorney before accepting any such offer.
Can you recover money from medical treatment you might need later? And kind of, I'm going to loop that in with, you talked earlier how sometimes your medical stuff doesn't even show up until days later. So how do you prove it so they can seek that the money from medical treatments?
So there's kind of two parts to that question. If there is a delay between the date of the crash or the date you were injured in some kind of other incident and the day that you first start to experience symptoms, an insurance company is going to try and argue that, well, that means that the crash isn't related to your injuries. Working with medical professionals and vocational therapists, experienced personal injury attorney can work with you to use science and professional experts to show how, in fact, the crash did in fact cause your injuries, and to explain to a judge and a jury why it took some time for those to manifest, for you to start feeling them. Similarly, unfortunately, there are time limits on when you have to file your claim and file a lawsuit for personal injuries. So sometimes you may still need treatment in the future while your case is pending. In that regard, we work with professionals, both in the medical field and professional economists and vocational experts, to develop what's known as a life care plan or similar documents to show the jury not only the care that you've received to date, but going through the rest of your life, so that the jury can consider and award damages for all of the medical care you're going to need, both in the past and in the future.
Is there anything unique for Texas when it comes to car accidents and crashes that a viewer should be aware of if an accident?
Well, each state has its own unique set of laws, and while they're similar from state to state, they do vary. In Texas, away from the legal standpoint, what is somewhat troubling is there are a large number of uninsured drivers in Texas, which is why I tell my friends, my family, and everyone else I know that it is absolutely essential that not only do you purchase liability insurance as required by law, but make sure you have uninsured motorist coverage. This can be really, really important if you're involved with a crash with somebody who doesn't have liability insurance or who flees the scene. Without that, you can be left with no recourse. So that's something that individuals can do to protect themselves in this state. And by buying that coverage, it will provide protection for you and your family in the event you are injured by someone who is not as responsible as they should be.
That's definitely something that's hidden that a viewer might not even think about. So if the person listening to this was in a car accident here in Texas, specifically in Fort Worth or the DFW area, how do they contact you to help them understand their claim?
The easiest way to contact us is to jump on our website. That's tumolaw.com. Click on personal injury. There's a form you can fill out, and we'll get back to you that day. And either myself or my paralegal, Sophia Fuentes, will call you to discuss your case, and we can immediately discuss your options, discuss what you need right then and there, and help you get moving forward, both towards feeling better and getting you the compensation you deserve.